and welcome to the Green Machine. This is episode 2 of our tournament series. Today we're going to be talking about the 1964 European Nations Cup. I'm David, your host, joined by Nick. Again, still no Martin. He'd be like the Sunshine fans, really, won't he, Nick? He'll only come in during the Jack Charlton era. He won't see anything now up until then, will he?
Yeah, he's fair weather. I mean, it's only the tournaments and Roy Keane really with Martin, isn't it?
Yes, Martin Prendergast, our Roy Keane apologist. But anyway, we're here. We love you. We love the series. Some great feedback on the last episode, which was the 1924 Olympics and the 1948 Olympics, which was actually Ireland's first ever participation at a major tournament. It does count. It does count. And we explain on the podcast. The previous episode, Nick, we explain why that is the case. However, today is going to be all about the European Nations Cup. What is the European Nations Cup? Well, for our younger listeners, such as Nick, the European Nations Cup is actually the less tarted up version of the European Championships. So there you go. It was rebranded a few years later. Probably should have had the year of that in the.
I think it was 72. I could be wrong, but I think it's 72 was rebranded.
He could be wrong, but he could be right.
I'm usually wrong.
Often wrong, yeah. Lots of references there, actually, to some TV shows and various songs. But anyway, we'll get on with it, shall we? So this is the second edition. The first one, obviously, 1960, which I think was won by Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
1960, I think was in... I used to know all these things, but that's what Google's for.
It was I think it was the Soviet Union.
It was the Soviet Union. I was thinking that. Yeah. That's probably why Czechoslovakia.
I'm surprised that's the Soviet Union didn't win it.
Yeah, I wonder how many people were shot for that. Actually, never mind. Never mind.
Oh, David, no, we have it wrong. The Soviet Union won, and France hosted it.
Oh,
and we said it with such conviction as well, didn't we?
We really did. See, we could say anything.
It was in the Soviet Union, yeah. Czechoslovakia won, yeah. Czechoslovakia came third. And that was the first ever one. So yeah, 1964 was the second edition. And a little fun fact, courtesy of Keelan Gormley, the first ever goal scorer in a European Championship qualifier was Liam Toohey. So any player. So the first ever goal in a European Championship qualifier was by an Irishman.
Yep, that was when Ireland beat Czechoslovakia 2-0 in Dublin on the 5th of April, 1959. And also they lost a preliminary, easy for me to say, return leg, Jesus Christ, butchering that, 4-0 in Prague on the 10th of May. Future Ireland manager Toohey was working in the Guinness Brewery and playing part-time football for Shamrock Rovers at the time.
They clearly had a few for the second leg, didn't they?
Yeah, that was always the case, though, with the Irish team back then, wasn't it? They do really well at home, and then they go abroad, and the travel would be absolutely dog shit, and it would all just fall apart.
Yeah, Czech beer is too good, isn't it?
Oh, it is, especially the version of Budweiser. Fantastic. So at the time, Ireland had players like Johnny Giles, Alan Kelly Sr., Noel Cantwell, Manchester United, Tony Dunn, Mick Megan, and Ronnie Whelan Sr.
All the dads.
All the dads, yeah. Mad, Alan Kelly Sr., the go-to guy for Preston, wasn't he? Still have his face, his mural painted at Deepdale, Preston North End.
Yeah, he's in the stands, isn't he? Like the seats arranged in his face. Yeah. Yeah,
that must be weird when you're Alan Kelly Jr. Going there and seeing that. I mean, cool, but obviously, a bit strange, but an absolute legend of the game, Alan Kelly Sr. 24 players in all played through the competition for Ireland, and in a way, Dublin technically hosted the knockouts.
Yeah,
tell us a bit more about that, Nick.
Yeah, so I suppose this is pre-European Championships, and really the finals was only the semi. So that was hosted in Spain. The preliminary round was essentially all the qualifiers. It was straight knockout. It wasn't group stages or qualifying groups or anything like that. It was just straight knockout. There was a lot less teams who participated back then, I suppose. And technically, like, it's not officially, but I mean, technically, if you think about it, the round of 16 and the quarterfinals, Dalymount Park hosted games in both of them when Ireland played there. Spoiler alert. But technically we did host it then, didn't we? Dublin did host matches, knockout matches in the Euros. Now, as I said, the finals was only couple of games, really, wasn't it? 2 rounds and a 3rd or 4th place playoff. But I mean, if you think of Euro 2020 plus 1 and all this talk that, Ireland were meant to host their first major tournament and it didn't happen in the end. If you think about it, if you're going to technicality, technically we did, back in 1964. But then again, so did about 20 other countries, didn't they? A little bit like the last Euros.
Yeah, except it actually wasn't played in a pandemic.
And they didn't think it was coming home either.
No, still have to have it. Always have to have a little dig at the English, haven't you?
Of course.
So, Ireland played Iceland in a preliminary round. I cannot pronounce that word tonight. Preliminary.
Preliminary.
Preliminary. Okay, now, so the first game was on the 12th of August, 1962, actually, which is,
probably
almost.
Martin probably remembers that.
Yeah, well, he was probably a teenager at that time, wasn't
he? Yeah.
But yeah, that was in Dalymount Park. Ireland won 4-2. Not bad. Which is kind of weird, actually, because we beat Iceland 4-2 in 1997 up in Reykjavik. Roy Keane with a brace. There you go. Yeah. Newcastle's lean 2, he gave Ireland the lead before. Ricker Johnson equalised. That's a name. Ricker Johnson. Amby Fogarty of Sunderland restored the lead with Man United's no Cantwell. Auto correct. Having fun with my notes. Hitting a brace before Johnson grabbed a late goal prize. I fucking everyone's called Johnson up there.
Well, do you know the whole background of that? Do you know the whole thing about the names up in Iceland? Yes, and like this, and this is an educational show, not just a football show, isn't it? Not so. The son, I mean, you can probably put it together, is the son of whoever. So if you think of Eidur Johnson, it's the son of Good, or Good John. So son of Good John, and then of course, like, didn't his dad play, and doesn't his son play for Iceland now? And all of the girls are called, say, if it was Good Johnson's daughter, it would be Good John Ditter. So D-O, I think it's T-T-I-O or D-O-T-I-O. So it's son or daughter Ditter. Isn't that just the fun fact of the day?
That is, I tell you now, Nick, mind blown.
So that's where, if you look at the Icelandic team, nearly all of them are son. But as far as I know, this is just a random bit of information I only found out recently. I think Eidur Johnson's son, a lot of sons here, but his son is playing senior football for Iceland. Albert, I think his name is, and he just goes by Albert on his jersey.
Didn't Eidur Johnson replace his dad?
Yeah,
in a match.
He did.
That's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, back in 97, I think. Again, I'm probably completely off the mark there, but around then, yeah. But I mean, like, look, I mean, his dad had him when he was very young, I think. So it wasn't like he was in his 60s and he was replacing him. He might have been close to 40 anyway.
Mental.
Still, yeah.
Anyway, there you go. That's what you tune in for. Absolute
nonsense.
Bollocks. Just like that. So the second game was the 2nd of September 1962 in Reykjavik. Tui gave Ireland the lead again before Gardar Arnason. So the son of Arn.
Son of Arn, yeah.
Jesus Christ. This is like fucking episode of Thor, isn't it? As the game finished 1-1. So round of 16, we're moving on. And Ireland are drawn against Austria.
Yeah.
Gee, I bet fucking Tony Poster is probably hanging around here, wasn't he? I still don't forgive him for that,
Yeah.
3-1. We'll get to that, I'm sure, in a later episode. But Ireland obviously were they were considered the underdogs in this game, Nick, weren't they? This Austria team had a little bit about them.
Oh, they're very good. I mean, they've been to the last 2 of the previous 3 World Cups. They were one of the best Austrian teams that there ever was. I think they finished 4th. I should really check my facts before this, but I think they finished 4th a couple before. Oh, sorry, third. Just look there. I actually have it written down. So they finished 3rd 11 years before.
Your notes, Nick.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah, I know. All my research for nothing. So, no, look, what kind of added to this was Ireland were very understrength. The big thing at the time, and I mean, any older listeners, I don't know if there's too many who remember this, but at the time, Manchester United wouldn't really release their players to play for Ireland. They released the lads to play for England,
Wow.
but they wouldn't
Even back
release
then.
the. Yeah, I know. Yeah, and then certain Roy Keane kind of followed that trend for friendlies, didn't he? But they wouldn't release Noel Cantwell or Tony Dunn, and like they were two of the key players. They were two of the best players in the UK at the time, really. So we were at a massive disadvantage. We were missing a huge amount of players. A lot of sections of the Austrian media digged up a couple of little. I digged up a couple of articles from the archives, and they were kind of saying Ireland needed a miracle to win. They really weren't fancied. It was very much a case of an expected victory and a routine victory that was going to be expected in Vienna, which was a very, very difficult place to go to. And just an interesting little bit of trivia. Willie Brown of Bowes, he was the last amateur. He actually came in to replace Tony Dunn, but he was the last amateur to play for Ireland until Joe Lapierre did in 2007. So another little fun fact. And then, astonishingly enough, Ireland came out with a 0-0 draw, 0-0 victory, let's say, in Vienna.
Yeah.
And Alan Kelly apparently was, now I've no footage of the game. I've gone through all sorts of archives and all different bits and pieces, but couldn't find any video archives at all. So if anyone has them, I mean, we'd love to see them. But apparently Alan Kelly Senior was absolutely phenomenal in this game. Like, Ireland had no right to come away with a 0-0 draw apparently, but he played a blinder with that very understrength team containing amateurs. So yeah, a lot of significance to that game over in Vienna.
Yeah, and also apparently Ireland battered the Austrians.
Kicked the shite into them. Yeah, kicked the absolute shite into them.
I'd say, you get away with one of those. Well, back then, I mean, it's probably considered kicking, well, I suppose back then, when you say kicking the shit out of them, I actually probably really literally did batter them.
Yeah,
probably a few assaults going on there.
Well, as we're gonna see later on, I mean, football was a lot more feral back here, and not even just on the pitch, but with the fans and everything like that. So, if you look at football now, and if you look at some of the stuff that players, I suppose no one gets away with anything now, do they? It's gone so non-contact. But back then, I mean, you could really smash someone and not even get carded. So, you can imagine what was going on there in Austria, and apparently the conditions were really poor as well. So, probably suited us. I always say we like playing in the rain, but I don't think anyone likes playing in the rain, don't they? No,
it's more of a test of character. Like, when you play in an absolute piss in the rain, the conditions are horrible. It is a real test of character. That's at any level. When you play in the match, even a five-a-side, you're like, oh, this is shit. You're free. I remember, it's a funny story. We played a first league game years ago, and we were brutal. We probably lost. And I remember just playing, and I had a white Liverpool kit, white shorts, and apparently I I didn't wear undershorts, and I got soaked right through.
Was that from the rain, or just from being nervous, or what was it from?
Probably a little from column A and column B, but it was a good thing I wasn't near any public parks or at that stage. But my mate just goes, "Yeah, next time don't wear white shorts." There, oh shit, it was really embarrassing. Anyway, we're moving on. So the second game was in Dalymount Park on the 13th of October 1963. We had a total of 4 pitch invasions during the match, over 40,000 in attendance. Walter Koznick gave Austria the lead after 38 minutes before Noel Cantwell finally released from his Man United hell, and Fogarty added to their accounts. Rudy Flogel scored a late equaliser with 5 minutes to go before a last-minute Noel Cantwell penalty sent Ireland through. But apparently just before the penalty, there was another pitch invasion.
Yeah, madness here. I mean, Dalymount Park back then, I mean, we've all seen those images, haven't we? The lads standing on the on the roof up in the 80s. I mean, 40,000, and I mean, Dalymount only is really meant to hold about 10,000. I mean, it was our national stadium at the time, still is, really, isn't it? Still our national stadium. But 4 pitch invasions, which is absolute madness, and understandably, kind of looking at reports after, the Austrians were absolutely disgusted, and they kind of said as well, like, there's a few things that were written, and it was saying, very dramatic circumstances that we won, going 1-0 up, going 2-1 up then, and then Austria equalizing late, and then us getting the penalty late. And imagine that happened nowadays, pitch invasion just before a penalty. I mean, you'd probably be turfed out, wouldn't you? But there was a lot of things written at the time, and they were saying, the Austrian keeper was put off by the pitch invasion and dived the wrong way because of that. But I mean, look, Noel Cantwell was one of the best players in the UK at the time, and he slotted it away under pressure. But madness, very feral, very surreal to hear that. As I said, I'd love to see footage of it, but
A bit like Bray
crazy
wanders
stuff.
away. A bit like Bray wanders away from
when Bray play Wexford, yeah.
Apparently, yeah, it was a nasty old game. Mick McGrath, Blackburn was kicked in the head and had to receive stitches, just a bit like Richard Dunn.
Yeah,
in Moscow. So in the quarterfinals, Ireland are drawn with finals host Spain. So there you go. So Ireland reached the quarterfinals of a major tournament before Italia 90.
Yeah. It really goes under the radar, doesn't it? And I mean, I suppose it's because of this whole rebranding and the whole fact that the finals was so small and we technically didn't travel to a tournament. A little bit like the Olympics, though, as well. I mean, it hasn't really been documented, but essentially, if you were to factor out the rebrand, we have made it to the quarterfinal of a European Championship. And if you look on the record, that's our best performance. The best we've done is the first ever round of 16 that was played, isn't it? Before that, it was the group stages. So we have made it to the quarterfinals of a European Championship. So 2 major tournaments we've made the quarterfinals.
There you go. Absolutely. Well, 3 if you count my my stint on Football Manager there last week. But
yeah. Thought you were going to say the Icelandic triangular tournament there. But
well, we did reach the quarterfinals. Well, actually, semi-finals because there was only 3 teams in it, but we won that. So so you have to remember we won that. And spoiler alert, it's coming up next. So we're playing Spain in the quarterfinals. Spain had gone out in the group stage of the last World Cup and didn't qualify for the previous 2. So a bit unlike the Spain team that we know and love out of the recent years. Anyway, they withdrew from the last tournament after they were drawn against the Soviet Union, who had supported the Republicans in the Spanish Civil War. Alfredo Di Stefan. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Alfredo Di Stefano, one of the best footballers ever, Dave. One of the best footballers ever. So basically what happened here. Yeah,
but he can't be that good if I can't pronounce his name. There you go.
Yeah, but what happened here was, as you said, I mean, the Soviets had kind of backed the Spanish rebels, basically. And, I suppose a lot of parallels with what's going on at the moment, isn't it? Not that the Spanish are supporting the Russians, but kind of parallels to that. So they withdrew from the last competition. And, in previous years, they've been a very good team. I mean, Real Madrid were a real powerhouse at the time. Barcelona were very good. But, as a national team, things aren't really happening for them. I mean, they had to withdraw from competitions because of civil war and so on. So they were a little bit disjointed, but they were very fancy for this competition. First of all, because they were hosting it, and also because Real Madrid were, probably the best team in Europe at the time, if not kind of one of them. So this was their big return. Essentially, if they didn't beat us, they wouldn't have gotten through to the finals in their own country, a little bit like us. Well, even though it didn't happen in Dublin, but it was one of those things that they were under a huge amount of pressure, but they were very, very much fancied. Like, they were a very strong team.
Yeah. The first game was held in the more intimidating atmosphere of Seville. And that was on the 11th of March, 1964. And United, again, being cheeky little feckers, wouldn't release Noel Cantwell or Tony Dunn due to the FA Cup final with Sunderland, who actually released Charlie Hurley for the game. But ended up playing 3 games in a week and made an early mistake in the match.
Charlie Hurley is, I think, did Martin O'Neill cite him as his favorite player growing up? Because he was a Sunderland fan, I think. But he was either voted like their player of the century or was put in their team of the century. So he was very well thought of in Sunderland. And I mean, that FA Cup final was a huge huge event in their history. But yeah, he ended up playing a league match, the FA Cup final, and then against Spain. And of course, like in Seville, very, very hot. He was kind of a very solid centre half. One of the, I know I keep saying one of the best in the UK, but that's how good this Irish team was. He was one of the best defenders in the UK at the time, and he made a very early mistake, and it just kind of let Spain in. And they kind of just fell away then. Amancio, who was a Real Madrid winger, didn't actually know much about this guy until I started doing a bit of research for this. But he was one of the best players in Europe. He was the Real Madrid winger superstar. Scored 2 goals, got an assist. He absolutely tore us to shreds by the looks of things that day. And it was a very, very fatigued Ireland. It was an understrength Ireland, and the odds were really stacked against us. And sadly, it was kind of over after the first leg, really.
Yeah, 5-1. We were down 5-1. Andrew McAvoy of Blackburn pulling one back after we went down 2-0 early on as Nick South, the Charlie Hurley error leading to that. Andrew McAvoy was actually the second top scorer in England that season. So as you
Yeah.
said, a lot of quality there.
Second to Jimmy Greaves, actually.
Who was just a goal machine at the time.
Yeah.
I tell you, Jimmy Greaves, I think actually had Irish ancestry.
He did, yeah. He ended up playing in Ireland, didn't he?
I think everyone ended up playing in Ireland at one stage, didn't they? But if you ever want to look back at his film on BT Sports, he was immense. He was a guy actually who could have played in today's. You see some strikers who go, "Yeah, you're a product of your time." Jimmy Greaves was actually very modern. He could have played in today's football. He was just so good.
I stand corrected. He never played in Ireland.
Jesus.
Yeah. Jeez, we're on the ball tonight, aren't we?
Oh yeah, we're absolutely flying. We're sucking diesel. So the second game, Ireland 5-1 down, and the second game was held on the 8th of April 1964. Ireland lost 2-0. Barcelona forward Pedro Zabala scoring twice on his only appearance for Spain.
Yeah, he actually replaced Amancio. So they were kind of they were dead and gone. Where it was 5-1, but Amancio was out, and they were kind of thinking, "Oh, this is great. We don't have to deal with him." And then this lad Zabala comes in, his only appearance for Spain. He didn't go on to play in the finals, but scored 2 goals and kind of put us away. So 7-1 in aggregate, sadly.
Yeah, an absolute trouncing, unfortunately. But to be fair, Spain did go on to win the tournament, and they would set a trend of 3 hosts winning the tournament on the trot, with Italy in 68 and subsequently Germany in 72 following on. Of course, we don't. And of course, we all know Ireland would also again lose to Spain in the controversial playoff for the 1966 World Cup, which I believe Ireland won the first game at home, lost the second. But back then, away goals and aggregate score didn't count. It was just Ireland won the first, they won the second. It was 1-1, and then it was all to play for in the third game, which actually, it's funny enough. Remember that one? Peter Byrne, who has very recently just passed away. Actually, our condolences there to Peter Byrne. He wrote about this, that Ireland. The story goes that the game was supposed to be played either in Paris or London, and Paris would have been more favourable for the Spanish FA, and apparently the FAI were bribed, wink, wink, and they were told, right,
when did they ever get bribes? The FAI.
Never. Dare you? No, I mean, but that is the story where the story is that they were told, look, if you put the game in Paris, which gives us a massive advantage, we'll give you the gate receipts, and everything will be fine. And that's where it ended up being played, and the Irish players felt betrayed, very angry about it, blah blah blah. But Peter Byrne wrote about it in Green is the Colour, and it's actually on the documentary as well, which he is a part of. And he said that in fact they were going to move it. The offer was made, but FIFA were going to move it to Spain anyway.
Yeah.
And a friend in FIFA told the guy at the FAI, said, listen, heads up, take the money, we're going to move it to Spain. Anyway, we're going to move to Paris. And they lost 2-0, I think, or they lost 1-0.
1-0, I think it was, yeah.
1-0, and Ireland had a goal wrongly disallowed, and basically, which would have given us the lead. And who knows what would have happened. So, there you go.
There's a lot of dodgy bits there, because even look, I was thinking of this as I was kind of researching this, and I think I was kind of disproven by myself. Like, if you look at all the hosts, and it's the same with the World Cup, look at the hosts, look at the winners, or even look at the smaller teams, say like Sweden in 1950, was it, or 1956, doing so well, coming third in the World Cup. Like, you'd wonder, was there a little bit of dodgy dealings going on to make sure that it played into the host hands? Because there was never, when this format was there, the hosts never failed to qualify for this kind of semi-final, because they had to qualify. They had to qualify to get into the tournament that they were hosting. But then I was kind of looking at it, and I kind of thought, Portugal got to the final in 2004. The Netherlands had gotten to the semis in 2000. France got to the finals in 2016. So yeah, maybe it wasn't as crooked as I thought. Maybe it was just the fact that the host nation were just particularly strong at the time.
I just think as well
because
that
FIFA are and UEFA are squeaky clean, aren't they?
oh yeah, completely. But as well, it's a different thing, wasn't it? A lot of people didn't get to travel. The only time back then people got to travel regularly was during wartime,
Yeah.
on the back of a warship or on a cargo plane going to another part of the world. So there is a bit of that, like and it was a different world. If you went abroad now, it wouldn't be as bad. Like you'd have your research, you know what to expect. You go online. Back then, a lot of things played into it, and the fact that FIFA probably, took a few brown envelopes. Probably had Martin on the go, did they, with his dodgy jerseys and ticket
Well,
allocation?
as you said, he was a teenager then, so probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Start him young. Anyway, that brings us to the end of another episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Next time around is Ireland's first ever major tournament that they won, not qualified, not got to the quarters, none of this penalty shootout bollocks in Genoa, actually went and won a tournament. Spoiler alert, it is the Icelandic Triangle Tournament. Folks, I actually think we should get a star over the Ireland crest. 2 stars, actually. This should be the first one. This is what it's all about. That is coming up next week. The Icelandic Triangle Tournament, which, yes, is held in Iceland.
Not
98.
not the shop.
Not the shop. Not the shop. Fantastic. Can't wait for it. Jack Charlton brings the boys in green. They come home with the tin pot. They come back with the lettuce. They come back with the goods. Yet there was no heroes welcome. Not like Euro 88 when they actually won something. I can't wait to talk about this. Yeah, great stuff. So we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much for listening. Nick, thank you as well. Martin, I hope you're happy. Not
Roy Keane got mentioned a couple of times. United got mentioned a couple of times. He'll be very content, very satisfied.
He'll be very satisfied. Right, we're going to leave it there. Don't forget to give us a follow on the Facebook page /GM podcast /lansdowneroad.ie. Also give us a look over on the Green Machine website. That is the www.greenmachinepodcast.com website, where you can get this and several other episodes and loads of other series going on at the moment. We're going to see you next week. Thank you for joining us, and safe home.